I don't think that any other sector across industry has been hit as hard as the civil aviation industry.
The way we see it, we are very closely tied to the COVID cases, of course. So whatever happens to COVID cases happens to Indigo's revenue.
The losses that you've seen over the last 2 quarters have largely been because of aircraft, which we have to pay for, but which are not really flying.
It would depend how different countries or block of countries would respond to the vaccination done by individual countries or block of the countries.
And so it was that the Indian aviation industry saw a large chunk of its aircraft spending more time in the hangar than in the skies. 2021 started with airlines seeing signs of pre-COVID recovery in February, but those tailwinds soon turned into headwinds, and the second wave that swept the world between April and June brought back the nightmares. However, stranded birds have begun taking to the skies once again, and air traffic is almost back to pre-COVID levels. Here, the air bubbles that India has going on with 34 nations has helped, as has the fact that all these nations have accepted India's vaccines and certificates as sufficient for entry, even the UK, after some diplomatic pushing. An overall revival in aviation operations is not the only silver lining to 2021. It's the fact that Indian skies have become home to 2 new airlines. One is a returning name, Jet Airways, which has been missing for 2 years, is ready to take to the skies under the new owners Jalan Kalrock Consortium. The second is Akasa Air, a new venture by veteran investor Rakesh Jhunjhunwala in consortium with former Jet Airways and Go Air CEO Vinay Dubey and former Indigo President Aditya Ghosh. Akasa Air's livery has been finalized and the airline is looking forward to a mid-summer launch, so the low-cost carrier space is sure to get crowded and a lot more competitive in 2022, as over 80% of the market is already served by low-cost airlines.
Vistara Air India merger should find good turf to operate on. As far as Akasa is concerned, the playing field is actually more crowded at the other end, meaning in the low-cost carrier end. And Akasa will be flying smack into Go First, SpiceJet, and Indigo in the LCC space. So they'll have a challenge there, I would imagine.
They're very smart people. They don't need my advice. I think it's a terrifically challenging market that they are entering. And of course, they're also not entering at the best time, I would think, because of the after effects of COVID, but also, you know, the price of oil and the currency issue and so on. But I'm sure they will find a way to make their business viable.
But 2021 may be remembered by the aviation space more for what happened with India's legacy airline, the MAHARAJAH. It was by far the biggest development and the most awaited for Indian aviation, the privatization of Air India. The process, which had already seen much delay and quite a bit of back and forth, finally came to a close, and the national carrier will fly back to the Tata Group after nearly 90 years. While there is a sentimental appeal in the airline going back to its founders, effecting a turnaround will be a bit more challenging, and just how Tata Sons strikes a balance between Air India and its existing brands, Vistara and AirAsia India, could become a management case study. The transition, of course, is far from over, and there are still a few political questions being raised over the transaction, including how Air India's massive debt overhang will be funded.
I think that this heralds a very, very important new chapter in the area of civil aviation. You have now a couple of airlines with a tremendous amount of fleet strength across the board, whether it's Indigo, the combined Tata Group, SpiceJet, and you're looking forward to a much more robust civil aviation sector. Also, if you look at it from the taxpayer's perspective, literally a black hole where 7,500 crores a year was being spent to make up for losses.
2021 has not been just about a revival in aviation activity and the attempt to return to a semblance of the old normal. It's also been about addressing old and new fears. The resurgence of the COVID-19 virus under the OMICRON variant has people getting edgy once again. And as 2021 draws to a close, many countries have begun going back to imposing strict restrictions on international passengers. This puts the aviation revival in jeopardy But for the Indian government, 2022 will see some of the seeds planted in 2021 bearing fruit. Through 2021, the government has taken two policy steps to enhance aviation infrastructure. First, under the National Infrastructure Pipeline for new and existing airports, an investment of 90,000 crore rupees has been planned, and privatization of 25 airports has also been planned by the government. Second, it has started drawing up rules to regulate the commercial and civilian use of drones in the Indian airspace. Both of these will play out over 2022 and change the skyline of Indian aviation. Stakeholders hope all these changes will make for an exciting year, especially if more flights and increased competition will mean more travel at cheaper rates. In New Delhi, Anu Sharma.